Most Jeep engines don't fail because of major problems. They fail because of small mistakes nobody warns you about. I just tore one down that didn't even make it to 100,000 miles, and what I found will probably surprise you. These cheap, simple fixes could be the difference between a dead engine and one that lasts 500,000 miles. Secret 15. Your MAF sensor is lying. First thing I pulled off Greg's Jeep was the mass airflow sensor. Sits 1 inch behind the air filter. Held it up to the light, coated in brown dust. That sensor counts the air going into your engine and tells the ECU how much fuel to spray. When dust coats it, the count goes wrong. ECU sprays the wrong fuel mix. You lose 1 to 2 miles per gallon. No warning light. No code. Walk to your driveway. Grab CRC MAF cleaner. $7 at Walmart. 2 screws hold the sensor. Pop the connector. Spray the wire from 6 inches. Never touch it. Let it dry. Screw it back in. Dealer would have charged Greg $280 for a new sensor. Gas Greg pumped through it caused worse damage than any dust ever could. Secret 14. The gas station killing your injectors. Pulled one of Greg's injectors to bench test the spray. Came out a narrow stream instead of a wide cone. Carbon caked on the tip. Greg fueled up wherever was cheapest. The American gas market splits in two. Top-tier stations like Shell, Chevron, Costco, Texaco, and BP add 3 times more cleaner than the EPA requires. Everyone else hits the legal floor and stops there. Pentastar uses port injectors. Cheap fuel narrows the spray. Hemi runs MDS lifters that get cranky when carbon piles on the intake valves. Hurricane runs direct injection. One bad tank coats the back of the valves with carbon you can't scrub off without pulling the head. Greg's dollar saved at the pump? About to cost him a $2,000 carbon clean on top of the rebuild. Pour Techron Concentrate Plus in your tank every 5,000 miles. $8. Top tier list lives at toptiergas.com. Free. A $15 valve sits on top of your engine. Greg's was dead too. Secret 13. The valve poisoning your intake. Pulled Greg's PCV valve off the intake. Shook it. Silent. Dead. Original factory part at 97,000 miles. That valve costs $15 and saves your motor. Mopar's name for positive crankcase ventilation. Every gas engine pumps blow-by gases that need to vent. The PCV sends them back to the intake to burn off. When it sticks, oil mist gets pushed where it shouldn't. Pentastar gets a coated MAF sensor. Hemi gets carbon caked on the intake valves and a louder tick. Hurricane gets ruined direct injection sprays. One lazy little valve causing all of it. Free test? Pull yours. Shake it. Healthy one rattles. Dead one sits silent. Replace every 40,000 miles. Mopar valve, $15, 5-minute job. Now check your battery posts. Greg's were costing him $900. Secret 12. The dollar fix for bad ESS. Walk to Greg's battery. White-blue crust on both terminals. The ESS warning had been on his dash for 2 months. He thought he needed a new alternator. Your engine stop-start system needs full voltage to know when to shut the motor down and start it back. Lose half a volt to crusty terminals and the system throws a tantrum. Dealer would have sold Greg a new module. Maybe an alternator. $800 before he finished his coffee. Real fix is so simple it's embarrassing. 1 spoon of baking soda in a cup of water. Pour. Watch it fizz. Rinse. Dry. Coat with dielectric grease so the crust stays gone. 10 minutes, twice a year, almost zero cost. Greg's coolant was doing way worse damage than the corrosion. Secret 11. Coolant is eating your engine. Cracked Greg's radiator cap. Brown sludge instead of green. 60,000-mile-old factory fill. Never flushed. Past 60,000 miles, the cleaner additives in coolant die off and the chemistry turns aggressive. It eats every aluminum surface it touches. Your Jeep is full of aluminum. Heads, intake, water pump, oil cooler. Pentastar takes the worst hit. Cylinder number 2 has a valve seat overheating problem on early heads. 2011 to 2013 builds with Julian date stamps under 2062. Bad coolant pulls the trigger sooner. Hemi and Hurricane suffer the same chemistry, just slower. Top off only with distilled water. $1 a gallon. Tap water leaves crusty minerals on every internal surface. Flush every 5 years or 60,000 miles with Mopar OAT coolant. The purple stuff. Skip the green. Skip rainbow blends. Mopar tells you to wait until 150,000. That number protects warranty paperwork, not your motor. The part Greg bolted on top of his engine to make it faster? Doing the opposite right now. Secret 10. Performance filters are costing you power. Greg had a chrome cone intake bolted to his Jeep. K&N kit, $300 installed. He thought it was making him faster. It was making him slower. Cold air carries more oxygen than hot air. The factory airbox pulls cool air from the fender well. Greg's cone sat in the open engine bay, sucking air baked by the exhaust manifold for an hour. Hot air, less oxygen, less power. Dyno proves it every time someone tests honestly. A $20 paper filter from Mopar or Wix, sitting in the original sealed airbox, beats the $80 cone every time. Swap the paper filter every 15,000 miles. Half that if you live on dirt or off-road on weekends. Greg spent $300 to lose horsepower. Underneath that intake, an even cheaper filter sealed his engine's death. Quick side note, if you're serious about making your Jeep last long-term, I put everything I know into a step-by-step longevity guide. It covers exactly what to do, when to do it, and the mistakes that quietly kill these engines. It's linked below in the description if you want a clear plan to follow. Secret 9. Cheap filters are killing your Hemi. Twisted off Greg's oil filter. Fram. The cheapest one Walmart sells. Cut it open on my bench. Media so thin you could read newsprint through it. 3 seconds. That's how long your engine runs nearly dry every cold start. The filter you picked decides what happens during those 3 seconds. When your Jeep sits overnight, oil drains down into the pan. On startup, the pump shoves it back up. A quality filter holds oil in the housing through a strong anti-drain back valve. A cheap one drains right back down with everything else. Hemi owners get hit hardest. The MDS lifters sit dry until oil arrives. 2 extra dry seconds every cold start for 10 years. That's 5,000 dry starts in 100,000 miles. Engineers tearing down failed lifters trace the famous Hemi tick straight back to that math. Mopar filters cost $10 to $14, built to FCA spec. The bargain filter on the same shelf costs $4 and meets no standard for anything. Greg's tires were fighting his engine the whole time too. Secret 8. The tire pressure number owners miss. Walked around Greg's Jeep with a gauge. All 4 tires sat at 22 psi. He'd aired down for a trail 2 months ago and forgotten to pump them back up. A lot of owners do this. Cost shows up as worn tires, lost miles per gallon, and sometimes a blowout at 70. Underinflated tires create a longer contact patch with the road. Sounds like grip. Becomes drag. Your engine pushes against that drag every mile. At highway speed, an underinflated 35-inch tire builds heat inside the rubber. Heat softens the compound. Soft rubber separates from the steel belts. Blowout happens at 70 miles per hour, 3 lanes from the shoulder. A pressure gauge costs $3, 2 minutes per check. Do it every fill-up. Running 35S on aftermarket wheels? Door jamb spec was set for stock tires. A lot of 35-inch Wrangler owners run 26 to 30 psi for daily driving instead. Greg's brake calipers were dragging too. Secret 7. The brake trick dealers hate. Pulled Greg's front wheels. Caliper slide pins rusted in place. Pads had been touching the rotor for months. Constant drag. Every disc brake floats on slide pins. Those pins let the caliper move sideways as the pads wear. When the pins corrode from old grease, road salt, or torn rubber boots, the caliper can't pull back after you let off. The pad stays touching the rotor. All the time. At red lights. On the freeway. While you sleep at the office. That drag wears pads twice as fast. Warps rotors. And your engine has to push against it on every revolution. Wrangler and Gladiator owners get hit worst. Snow, salt, mud, water crossings. Slide pins corrode 3 times faster than on a daily driven sedan. $5 of brake cleaner, 8 of caliper grease, once a year. Pull the wheels and re-grease the pins. Greg's biggest mistake waited on the other side of this brake. There's a federal lawsuit attached. Secret 6. The plastic part wrecking Pentastars. On the lift next to Greg's Hemi sits a 2017 Wrangler Unlimited. Pentastar V6. Same week, oil pooling in the engine valley. Dealer quoted the owner $2,500 for a rear main seal. Wrong diagnosis. Always wrong. The oil cooler housing on every 3.6 Pentastar is molded from plastic. Sits in the V between the cylinder heads, baked by heat cycles every drive. Plastic and aluminum expand differently. The gaskets fatigue. The plastic warps and cracks. Between 70,000 and 120,000 miles, oil starts pooling in the engine valley. Overflows backward, drips down the back of the engine, lands on the transmission. Dealer sees the mess and bills you for a repair you never needed. Real fix? $200 for a dormant aluminum housing and 2 hours of labor. Class action sitting in federal court right now. Mulgane versus FCA US LLC, filed in the District of Delaware. Covers every 3.6 Pentastar in 2014 to 2020 Jeeps, Dodges, Chryslers, and Rams. The court filing says FCA knew about these failures since 2013. One owner told NHTSA, "Chrysler is waiting for one of us to die in a car fire. Pop your engine cover every 6 months. Look in the V. Oil pooling near the filter housing is your sign. Wranglers, Cherokees, Grand Cherokees, Gladiators, Pacificas. Same plastic, same failure, same dealer ripoff." Back to Greg's Hemi. The mistake that killed it is the one most owners are making today. Secret 5. The oil mistake that killed Greg's Hemi. This is what killed Greg's Hemi. $5,000 or 50. He picked the wrong one for 7 years. $5,000 for a Hemi cam and lifter job. Add timing parts and you cross $10,000 fast. $50 is a year of premium oil. The Hemi tick finally got solved. Hydraulic roller lifters at the top of the engine contain tiny needle bearings. At idle, when oil pressure runs lowest, those bearings get almost no oil. The bearings wear. The roller seizes. Skids across the camshaft lobe. Skidding metal grinds itself into your oil. Everything downstream starts dying. 3 habits buy you immunity. Run a real synthetic. Pennzoil Ultra Platinum, Amsoil Signature, or Valvoline Restore and Protect. High-mileage Hemi owners often switch from factory 5W20 to 5W30. Thicker oil holds higher idle pressure. Change every 5,000 miles. 5. Not 7,500. Not whatever the dash claims. Greg ran 10,000-mile intervals on bargain conventional oil from his local Walmart. His ECU was warning him at 5,000. He ignored it for 7 years. Made it to 92,000 miles before the lifters seized on a Tuesday morning. Final quote on his rebuild? $4,800. He could have prevented all of it for less than 1 fill-up. Above the oil pan, his throttle plate was hiding more damage. Secret 4. The throttle body carbon killing idle. Pulled the intake hose off Greg's throttle body. The bore was caked with carbon. Months of buildup. The plate barely closed flush. Carbon piles up around the throttle plate every mile you drive. The opening narrows. The plate sticks slightly when it tries to close. Your ECU notices the airflow drift and quietly compensates with the idle air control. Months later, the baseline runs around dirty hardware. Your Jeep starts idling rough. ESS quits engaging at red lights. Throttle response goes lazy. Greg had all 3. Dealer charges $250 to $400 for the cleaning. Real cost? $8 for throttle body cleaner. Pull off the intake hose. Hold the plate open with 1 finger. Wipe the bore clean with a lint-free cloth. Never spray cleaner directly into the MAP sensor. Run the idle relearn afterward. Warm up, idle 10 minutes, AC on max for 10 more. 3 more seconds at every cold start can wipe out everything you just fixed. Secret 3. The cold start killing your lifters. Asked Greg about his morning routine. Started the Jeep. Mashed the gas to back out the driveway. Same thing every day for 7 years. Cold oil sits thick in the pan after a long night. The pump needs several seconds to push it up to the top of the engine and reach every lifter, rocker arm, and cam phaser. Until that oil arrives, every part up there spins with almost zero protection. Mash the gas? You just slammed the lifters under load while the bearings were still dry. Hemi pays in lifter tick 5 years later. Pentastar pays in rocker arm bearing wear that turns into the famous Pentastar tick. Hurricane pays in stretched timing chains. Fix takes 30 to 60 seconds. Drive gentle for the first minute. Keep RPMs under 2000 until the temp gauge starts moving. Skip the 5-minute idle warm-up. That trick was solid in the 80s when carburetors needed it. Modern engines warm faster under gentle load. Idling does worse damage than any cold start ever could. Secret 2. Idling is worse than driving hard. Greg ate breakfast in his Jeep. Drive-through line, then 10 minutes parked outside the office while he finished his coffee. Every weekday for 7 years. At idle, oil pressure drops to its lowest reading of the day. On a Hemi running MDS, those lifter bearings get almost no oil splash. The teardown crews that traced the Hemi tick found the root cause was idle starvation, not high RPM driving. Greg's drive-throughs killed him as much as the cheap oil did. The tick that shows up at 70,000 miles started at 5,000, in 100 small drive-throughs you forgot about. Pentastar owners take a different beating. Long idling lets carbon build on the intake valves twice as fast. Coolant stays cool enough to never burn off acidity. Oil stays cool enough that combustion moisture builds up. Stop warming up by idling. Past 2 minutes parked, kill the engine. Modern starters handle hundreds of thousands of cycles. Lifters don't. One free habit Greg never did would have undone all of it. Secret 1. The free habit dealers can't sell. Most powerful fix on this list costs $0. Dealers can't sell it. Greg never did it. His father, sitting in my office now waiting on the rebuild bill, has done it for 30 years. Engines were designed to run fully hot, held at full operating temperature long enough to cook off everything that builds up during cold and short trip driving. Moisture from combustion needs to evaporate out of the oil. Unburned fuel vapor needs to vent out of the crankcase. Carbon builds faster when the combustion chamber never reaches peak temperature. Hemi needs heat to keep MDS lifter seals conditioned. Pentastar needs it to burn carbon glaze off cylinder 2. Hurricane needs it for the turbo seals. Greg's commute? 5 miles each way. Gym after work, 2 miles. Costco on weekends, 3 miles. His Jeep never reached full operating temperature on a single trip in 90,000 miles. His father drives the same Jeep, 287,000 miles. Original cam, lifters, everything. The difference? Once a week, the old man takes his Wrangler out on the highway for 40 minutes. Nothing else. No special oil, no magic additive, just heat. Once a week, take your Jeep on a 30-minute highway run. Hold the temp gauge at settled hot. Your Jeep was never built for short hops to the grocery store. Give it the highway run, and it'll outlast every service plan a dealer ever throws at you. If even one of these caught you off guard, drop your Jeep, engine, and mileage in the comments. I read every one. If you want more no BS tips to keep your Jeep running for the long haul, hit subscribe. And if you're not done yet, there's another video on your screen right now that goes even deeper. Go check it out. See you in the next one.